Okay.
I didn't go that far.
I'm hoping I'm not going to blow anybody's eardrums out here, so just give me a second. Okay. Testing. 1, 2. Everyone here is okay? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the July meeting of City Island Rising. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Doyle. I'm the president of the board. I want to just thank everyone for coming out. We do have a few of our board members who are here with us tonight. So we have, obviously, Louisa Benedetto, who's right over there. And we have Dan Schreiber, who's on our steering committee right over there. And I want to thank everyone for coming out. I know you have a lot of things you can do in the summer, and thankfully the AC is working here, but you took a chance it might not have been working, and we could all sit here and smell one another, but thankfully it's worked out pretty well. And I want to thank you for coming out to build community with us. At one of our recent meetings, many of you shared that you had some public safety and quality of life concerns. So we decided to ask the captain, Johnny Orellana, right here with us, to come and to just address the group and answer your questions. It's very important that we get those questions answered and that we try to do what we can to build community and to build public safety as best we can. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the microphone to the captain. About 4 or 5 people did submit their questions online first, and I know people are starting to tune in to watch online. So we'll start with those questions, and then we'll take as many questions as we can from the audience. And then we have just some items which we can cover very easy breezy thereafter, which will probably take about 20 minutes, okay? So all goes well, we'll be out in less than an hour, but I want to thank everybody for showing up. So without further ado, let's give a warm introduction to Captain Johnny Orellana.
Good evening. Thank you, John. Again, like you said, I'm Captain Johnny Orellana. I'm the commanding officer of the 45th Precinct. With me today is also Officer Rod Rodriguez. He knows everything about traffic. That's why I brought him out. I think we might have some traffic questions. So I said, come along. So I took over the 45th Precinct, the commanding officer, in October of last year. So I've been here roughly 8 months. But prior to that, I was also the second in charge for about 4 years here in the 45th Precinct. So I'm very familiar with the precinct in City Island, of course. So I'm ready to take any questions, whatever you guys any comments, questions. So go shoot right ahead.
Sure. So we had a few that came in. The first one I know people had questions about was, of course, traffic safety. So feel free, officer, if you want to move in on this. People had brought up that, obviously as you're coming over the bridge, there's that dip upward, which masks visibility. There was an accident there about 2 weeks ago, and people brought up their concerns with just kind of general traffic conditions around Pilot Street and Seafood City. So I guess what's being done to, I know as best you can address those things.
So obviously the traffic congestion gets worse in summer, right? So we have approximately 30 officers assigned to Orchard Beach every summer. So I dedicated 2 of those officers every day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when the traffic is really bad, to basically go up and down on City Island. I don't know if you've seen that. It's usually Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, and they're posted right over when people come over the bridge. And the reason there was a couple of reasons I wanted them there, not at the end by Johnny's reading, is because when people come, I don't want people, motorists to jump on the fire lane. They see the officers. We also, another reason I have them there is back in December and then a couple other times in January, February, we had a robbery crew who was going around. We had 2 incidents in City Island and a few more in the 45th Precinct. They were going around, jumping out of the cars. They will watch people as they leave in a restaurant or bar, and they'll see, okay, he's wearing a nice gold chain, a nice watch, and they'll jump out and rob them. So that we had a robbery crew. we had 2 incidents here in City Island, so that was another reason I put them there. So in case we did have something similar, as people come in, they see the police officer as a deterrent. Other than that, what I did before with the restaurants and the restaurants, I went around, this is a couple of years ago, and spoke to the manager and the owners about having to violate people when they bring in the cars to be more efficient or do something to expedite people coming in, because that's what slows down everything. People getting into the parking lot. Am I setting too? So we haven't had a big issue there. As far as I know, if you guys have any problems, let me know about Seafood City. I haven't heard anything. The problem we have with traffic coming into the island is by Cross Street. We have that light. So that light, that impedes the traffic when there's a lot of traffic coming in. What I requested was to have traffic agents come in and position themselves at Cross Street. The problem is we never get them. I shouldn't say we never get. We don't get them as often as we like. So that's the key right there, in my opinion. And speaking to this restaurant owners about having the people that park the cars do a better job. If there's a bigger issue that I'm not aware with Seafood City, let me know. I'll go again and I'll have one of my supervisors go speak to them and maybe help out on the traffic conditions.
The person said, and then we'll take a question from the audience, and then I have another question here. So I guess they said the traffic stalls and the patrons either, there's a light there, so obviously people get impatient, and a lot of people now, they're going at the entryway that's on the avenue where you're supposed to enter, and then you're supposed to exit on the side of Hunter Street. They're exiting onto the avenue, and 2 years ago, a car flipped over, things along that nature.
Okay, all right, so again, I haven't had, this is the first day. I know in general, there's always a traffic condition during the summer and during holidays and the weekends. So I'll go revisit and speak to the.
And it's not their fault. I mean, I understand from a this isn't obviously someone else's question, but from their perspective, they're their patrons. They come, they get in their car. Once someone's left your establishment and got in their car, it's not. I'm not even blaming you. What are they to do? I think it's just how do we solve that problem? And none of us are experts on that, but we know it could be potentially dangerous problem.
Right, and if you go there, you're not necessarily sure where to exit.
Stephen, and then yes, absolutely.
On the traffic issue,
You're next.
on the weekends, before the cars come around the bend, they'll come around the bend, and there'll be 3 or 4. Then they make 3 or 4 lanes where there used to be just one. There'll be 3 or 4 lanes, and then they all try to merge into that one lane before they go around.
So about the circle, right?
The bridge. So it's like, if that holds things up, perhaps if there could be either an agent when there is an agent available, or cones or something to prevent them from being outside and then moving themselves in, and that just slows things up before they go over the bridge.
Yeah.
Is that the top of City Island, or is that?
Yeah, by the circle. Yeah, we do suggest that. So every summer before the Memorial Weekend, right? Memorial Weekend to Labor Day weekend, we request traffic agent because we know there's an issue. The problem is we don't get them. I mean, we know that the problem. We don't have the resources, but we try our best. And I take from Orchard Beach the police presence there, and I try. Like Father's Day, right? We'll try to put as many people as possible, and any other holidays during the summer. So it is a challenge, but we are aware. But again, it's the resources.
Jack?
Yeah, my question is about the crane company. The cranes leave their huge, blocks-long cranes for hours in the middle lane idling. I have photographs. I have multiple photographs. I've called, my wife and I have called 311 multiple times. And there's always, we get to third degree, well, everybody's allowed to double park. And we try and explain that this huge, giant crane, which is blocks long, is just sitting there idling. And I know that there's a New York City law against sitting there idling for that long. I've left the island at 9 o'clock, come back at noon or 1 o'clock, and it's still sitting there. And we've called, I've called, other people have called, mostly through, and I know John has had a problem with that. These cranes, so now they've cleared the crane place out. I don't know what they're up to now, but we've had so many troubles. I know police cars have been sent there, but they usually, I think that, well, I don't know for sure, but maybe they get notice and they pull the crane in when they see the police come, or the police come, and they say to them, and then they pull it in. But they don't get fined, so they don't care. And they just keep doing it over and over and over again.
Okay, yeah, I know we've spoken about this
Yes.
issue.
And just so you know, at the 45th Precinct Council meeting, and the captain can tell you, every month I mention industrial parking on City Island and what we got going on here. So I agree it's a serious
So
problem.
also, I mean, it's idling near a school. It's idling near a school. All the fumes are coming out, and this is just idles and idles and idles. And now I know there's a website I can actually go on, and I can film them with my phone, and I can get paid for that, for reporting that.
Right.
I haven't done that.
Maybe it should.
But maybe that's what I need to do. Sometimes we can't get out of our block.
No, it's a
because they're
serious
blocking
problem.
us.
He's right.
I'll give you, thank you for your question.
I'm sorry,
comment.
I don't need to be, I'm just a little worked up about it.
No, I get it. What I'm gonna do after this, I'll have you give them up.
So we'll switch
What's
information
up, the
and so forth.
information?
I've actually had people speak to the crane operators in the past. Apparently, they're not listening. I'll research on the enforcement part of it, and usually when I write summons, there are commas involved, not dots, and we'll correct the problem one way or another. Okay, I know as far as crane operations go, with the crane operators, they have a weird union rule where if you jump from one crane to the next, I don't need this. I think I'm loud enough.
There are people watching online.
Sorry.
Try to-
Yeah, when you go from one crane to the next, you have to stay at that crane. If you go back to the original crane and you're operating it, they're supposed to pay you like an additional day's pay. It's one of those union rules that they have, where maybe the company's trying to circumvent that. But I'll research as much as I can, and I'll speak to my friend who can inform me of that and other things, and we'll figure out a way to resolve the problem. Hopefully without fines, but if it's necessary, we'll do what's necessary.
I've sent letters and photographs to Marjorie Velasquez, our city council person.
I haven't gotten them.
Yeah.
My name's gonna go on the bottom of the signs and the violations.
I will-
We'll speak.
And I spoke to her personally about
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I will, just to commiserate with what Jack's saying, I had, even though I'm across from the Schofield yard, I had the crane guy parked across the street from me idling for 6 hours. And that kind of truck, it's not one of those things where you close the window and you go on with your life. Like, you still hear it. And I have to say, I recorded it for about 90 minutes, and I sent it to DEP, and I'm trying to work that out, because if I can make some money off this misery, I'm probably going to do it. Maybe I'll donate it back to the group, who knows. But it is, and the guy, and I have to say, eventually, at 2 a.m. I had it, and I called 311, and I sent it to the captain, I sent it to the officers. Within 20 minutes, the cops did come, and they knocked on the, because there was no guy in the truck. So he started knocking. He's in the back in the cabin, like taking a snoozer as he's spewing the emissions. And, the officers were very nice. I have to say that. They did solve my problem. They knocked on the door, and he's, I'll go do this in my yard, which made me feel bad for all of you guys who live down on Reynolds and whatnot. But and they let him go. But, it is a very, not only did Jack and Jane send it over, but there's a lot of people who are on Reynolds Street and in the surrounding area, and those, they park right in the fire lane. And what you see in both of the industrial yards is that the sidewalk, the streets, everything else becomes kind of like part of the storage yard. which that's why they have the storage yard. They're supposed to do the storage work in the storage yard. So I'm just, yeah, I don't know how bad, which are the worst times over by you guys, but I will say from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., if you guys need to generate tickets and you want to go out, I think on City Island Avenue will be a very lucrative activity for the city of New York. Go ahead, Jen.
I confronted the owner because I had to make a left turn out of Reynolds Street and I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I saw him in his yard. So I went a U-turn and I stopped in front of his entrance. And he came over and he was laughing and I said, you know, I can't get out, so now I'm going to block you so you can't get in. And he thought it was a joke. He said, oh, everybody double parks on City Island. And I said, well, I heard you have a stop order, and you're not even allowed to be doing this. And he said, nah. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to stay here, and I hope you call the police, and I want them to come and see that you're blocking the middle lane. And then I realized I had an appointment. So I couldn't wait. But he was joking to me. He thinks it's a big joke. And now that they've cleaned out the whole yard, and they're parking them backwards. So, and you'll see it, we saw it on our way over here, a whole line of traffic is waiting for them to back up that long crane into the yard. I mean, this has been going on for like 2 years. You haven't been able to do anything. We call all the time, and John calls all the time. This has been an ongoing, you know.
The nice thing now is the captain's out and we have the traffic guys, so let's try this way. Maybe it'll work. I mean, it can't be any worse than what's going on right now, is the way I look at it, right? So let's give them a chance. Let's try to get things to work. And we'll definitely, I appreciate what you're saying, because I know, Jane, you've been on top of this, so I want to convey deep appreciation to you. And we will go. We'll do Patrick as a question, and Miss, I see you in the back there, and then we'll do an email from the mailbag we have here. Patrick, you had a question?
Okay, Captain Orellana, I wanted to follow up on one of the points you made. We all know this, when there's a lot of traffic coming onto the island, you know, weekends, whenever, backed up all the way to traffic circle, some people, a lot of people actually, come up the fire lane, and they think they're being so slick that they start going onto the fire lane all the way back, and then maybe they're making a left turn after the bridge, but maybe they're not. Because the traffic rule is this: if you're making a left turn, you can go into the fire lane, right? But that, I think that's what, 10 yards, not the whole stretch of the bridge. But there is a police present usually at the end of the bridge. My question to you is then, how could that be enforced? Those people, and not everyone makes a left, so some of them just take a chance, they go to the fire lane, they cut in, cause a hazard, and then they break the law. How can that be enforced? Because there's no police presence in the middle of the bridge, it's always on the end, so they don't even know it's happening, right? We see it, it happens a lot. And it's like, it's more just annoying, but it's also invasive, so.
Is usually on the weekends or
when it's
always
weekend.
Yeah,
Definitely.
the thing is, the 45th precinct is a huge precinct. It's the largest precinct in the Bronx. So we try to allocate our resources as best as possible. And truth be told, right now, just in crime-wise, we've been having a spike in crime. So I have to allocate my resources. Now, having said that, I do have a dedicated traffic team. I would assign them. I can't assign them completely for a whole week there, but I will reassess it and figure out how we're going to put more enforcement here during the week. Usually on the weekends is, again, a call there, and that deters people from doing exactly what you said. And the other thing is that I instructed my officers is, and maybe it's not a good idea, but the officers that I do have, when I tell them to instruct them to conduct some enforcement, is like if the person, the motorist is doing that, is a resident of the island, just cut them a break. Maybe that's not a good idea, but you know, we'll try. We'll do some more enforcement.
If you do it slowly.
Miss, you had your hand up. Then we'll do the email, and then we'll go to Lee. Miss, go ahead.
Yes, Captain, you had said that your requests for more
question, because a lot of things is like, you know, concentrate 80% on the solution and 20% on the problem. So the pen is mightier than the sword. So tweet away, right? That's how. When
Give us names to write to, that's always better.
I'll give it to you offline when
Yeah.
nobody's listening.
Yeah, no, we'll get it out.
So he knows who.
Yeah.
But
We'll talk after.
so I'll give you an example. When I got here as the commanding officer in the 43rd precinct back in October, we were short about 30 to 40 officers, either to retirement, reassignment, you know, so we were down significantly in police officer. Downtown, and people from the community wrote down to whoever they had to write to, and they saw the numbers, the crime increased, so they gave us extra officers. So that helped. We still need more, but you know, again, you have to voice your opinion and say, hey, we need this, we need that. Because other than that, there's other precincts, to be honest, they're a lot, they need cops more probably than us. So
Yeah.
This is a really great precinct to live in. You know, it's not as violent as other precincts.
But what we'll do is, to build on what the captain is saying, is we'll put together like a short checklist, who to call, and with like a very small draft script, nothing more than 2 or 3 sentences. You can either call or you can email, and then you can email your people at the city level, because they control the NYPD budget, so that your city council members, your borough president, the mayor, and then you can always reach out to your state elected officials. While they don't oversee the city budget, a lot of the state budget does come to augment what goes on in the city, so you make sure they're aware as well. So we will get a list together, we'll put something nice together, and I'll speak to you offline. We'll get something so even the people who are not online can still have a nice checklist of what to do, because, you know, at the end of the day, the captain, and Captain does work very hard, you know, because I've worked with him for a long time. He is doing the best he can with the resources he has. If he needs more resources, then, you know, he can put in his request, and then we can raise our voices collectively. So I appreciate what you're saying. Lee, just 1 second. Let me read this email question, and you're next. And then Jane, did you have another question? I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll do Lee and then Jane. Okay. This is this gentleman who wrote in. He had 2 questions. They're both quality of life based. The first one I think is a little maybe beyond the NYPD purview, and if it is, we'll move on. But the second one I think is a very common one people have here. Like most neighbors, during the summer months and on holidays, I either get anything I need off island done in the morning, or it's early out, late in terms of getting on and off the island. In the past, when traffic stretched back to Pelham Bay Station, being a resident of City Island got me no special accommodation from the traffic police on duty. Is there any way that City Island residents on and off access could be facilitated? This would probably entail something like a permission to use the fire lane. Yeah.
You heard what I said earlier.
Yeah.
That's the unofficial, my
Yeah.
unofficial.
Gotcha.
But, you know, fire lanes are there for a reason. So it's really up to the discretion of the police officer. You know, depending what's going on. Again, a lot of people use that as an excuse and say, oh yeah, you know, I live here or whatever. I'm visiting somebody on the island. So it's kind of a tricky thing.
Sure.
But the short answer is that no, we can't do that.
So this second question I think is, and Andrea will come back to you. Okay, go ahead.
It's related to this. Before your time, years ago, the island was closed because of traffic, you know, like they were letting 2 cars on and 2 cars left. And then they made everybody just leave. And I was saying, but I live here, and they wouldn't let me go on the island. In situations like that, maybe you can let people go on the island.
Fair.
I think if you show, if you on your license, it states that you live here, I don't see it's a problem. I mean, that's got to be.
Okay, well, they didn't let me on. I said, you know, I live here. They didn't say you have proof or something.
Yeah.
But I just thought I would bring up that little.
I think the second question something that's very broadly shared. Same person. According to NYC, the sound from a stereo boombox ranges from 110 to 120 decibels, among the loudest of loud noises in a noisy city. City Island is a residential neighborhood in addition to being a tourist destination. Loud music made by rude drivers and some delivery vehicles is frequent. I am not aware of any strict enforcement of the limits such as noise. Is there any way the police can take a more active role in enforcement, especially during summer months?
With the
Boom boxes and just kind of
in the cars.
noise, yes.
That's to be quite honest, that we haven't done that in a few years. They sort of got away from that. I mean, it's got to be excessive, and if we do stop people when I'm out on the field on patrol, whether it's with him or my other officers that I drive throughout the command, the precinct, and I pull them over because they are loud, they'll usually lower it down. It's something like, it's kind of tricky, you know, it depends how loud it is. I understand completely where they're coming from, and I always say, I live here in the Bronx, so I can hear the music. I hate when they do that. And, you know, especially if you have a child. I remember when my son was, you know, he'll put him to bed, and then some car would drive by and wake him up, and it was a nightmare. Anybody who has kids can appreciate what I'm saying. So I understand where you come, but we've gotten away from it. If it's something they park and they're blasting the music and they're out drinking, that's something, call 311. I'll give my number out when we're done here. You can call me direct. I'll make sure somebody responds. But to actually say I'm going to enforce that, we don't really enforce that as much. But it is on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, there's anything.
I'd just like to add to that, that violation is also difficult to enforce. Because say you're saying it's happening on Cross Street, and I respond. By the time I get to Cross Street, it's at the City Island Bridge. And like the captain said earlier, most of the time they see us, they lower the radio. We don't really have many unmarked vehicles where we could listen and witness it, and then issue them a summons. I'd like to do it more. We give them a criminal court summons. And I don't know if you've ever been to criminal court and had to fight one of those little pink slips. It may just be a $25 ticket or a $50 fine, but you literally have to wait all morning just to get into the building. That in itself may be a penance enough, but it's difficult to enforce. Because as soon as they see us, they see the lights, they see something that identifies the police car, it automatically goes down. And like as I said, as you call, since they're moving, it's a difficult. They've already moved. It's difficult to enforce.
If there's any
we do
way,
what we can, but
if there's any way we can just do what we can to.
spot check it if I hear it.
Because I do hear that email. I hear frequently. Mm-hmm. I hear it, of course, because I live on the avenue, but I hear it from people, my neighbors and stuff like that. That's a frequent problem. Let's do Lee, and then we'll do Jane, and then we'll do Steve.
Yeah, I just think if there was a sign there about fire lane saying, oh yeah, you can't, at the beginning of the bridge, the end of the bridge, because this kind of a traffic pattern is not common in the Bronx. To have one way and then a fire lane. People think, oh, I can do it. It says fire lane, but it doesn't say, oh, fine, illegal, don't do it. There's no sign like that.
We could put out a request for DOT.
Yeah.
Where they can.
Sign at the beginning of the bridge, overhead in the middle, and at the end.
And what should the sign say, Lee?
It's illegal to
drive in the fire lane.
Yeah, driving. Fire lane for emergency vehicle. Driving in the fire lane without an emergency will get you, $500
$10,000 fine.
Something like that. Cut it way down, believe me.
All right. No, we'll look into that for sure. I'm sorry. Then we had Jane. Did you have another question, Jane?
I think you were talking about it, but I didn't hear everything. But I just want to say what I've observed is that I see two things that bother me. One is cars go right through the red light.
Yes.
They just go right through.
So,
Nobody to stop them.
They
On the-
do that all day, and they do it at high speed.
Just-
I can have 3 cars ahead of me, and somebody gets into the fire lane, and we're stopped at the red light, just go zipping right through.
So one thing we are going to do, just because, again, some of these things, there are a variety of different places to complain. So with respect to the red light cameras, of course, NYPD can and should do enforcement, I'm sure they do. But what we really need to do is, the city needs to lift the cap on red light cameras. Right now, I think there's only about 150 or 175 red light cameras in the entire city. So what we've been doing is that permission needs to come from Albany. So much like we got the speed camera going southbound, we need to lobby our state senator, our state assembly member, and the respective bodies, not just the two of them, because I think they're both on board, but we need to lobby Albany to raise the red light camera cap so that we can get some red light cameras out here, because it is a very frequent problem. And that would be one way to enforce that. Nancy, go ahead.
I live on Hawkins Street. Yesterday, my husband and I were walking home, crossing the street from City Island to the other side. The light on Fordham Street was red. A person on a motorcycle comes over, lifting his front wheel, speeding at us, right through the red light at Fordham Street. And they do it all day, every day.
It is. And at least that way, because, look, I do have to say, I'm on the avenue. I think most people know that. I'm not going to give out my address here online, but, you know, I'm there. I'm on the avenue. I'm in a pretty frequent spot. And I look out frequently. I'm like the gargoyle of Schofield Street. I'm out there looking out. I do see a police presence on the island. I do have to commend the police for that. I see it much more now than I've seen in the past. But I think for what you're talking about, you know, the cops, if there's a cop car out here, they're going to be patrolling the avenue or the island overall. They're not going to see everything that goes wrong. And that's why for some things we need, again, better automation. Because you know what? When someone gets hit in the pocketbook a few times and there's an escalation, because I believe our red light cameras are moving fine, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they get points on their license.
No, you
No, it doesn't?
you don't know who's driving it.
No cameras.
Okay. You know, usually they say when they get them by the wallets, their hearts and minds will follow. But maybe this fine in and of itself might do a little better. But, you know, we are, you know, dealing, and we're going to get into this a little bit more a little later in the agenda, but there's a lot of stuff going on with DOT and traffic cameras that we are looking to do more of. We have a camera, as everyone knows, right over here going southbound. We have a request in to have one going northbound. Every time there's an accident on the island, and in the last 3 months there have been 4. There was the outside by Ohana, the private sanitation truck. I went out there, I got some photos, I sent it in to the officers, and I sent it to DOT. There was the food worker at Firehouse Deli. He has a GoFundMe online. If people are generous, please donate. He's a nice guy. He got hit over by Seafood City. We had a situation down by Tony's Pier that someone got hit, unfortunately. And then we had the accident by the bridge, where I also just happened to be waiting in the traffic, so I got some photos of that. So the reason I bring this up is not that I'm asking people to be crazy like me. That's not it. What I'm asking, though, is that if you can let us know when an accident was, we can work with the police. We can make sure we have the police reports, the documentation that's forwarded to DOT. We can be our own best advocates if we work together and keep the evidence together. That's what I'm saying. And then we can forward those things to our state elected officials, our city elected officials, and make the case for why we need either more officers on the one hand or, you know, better technology on the other hand.
So I have a dedicated sergeant assigned to traffic only, and we have a team of 5 or 6 officers. Again, this is the largest precinct in the Bronx. So, but we're going to increase from what I'm hearing here, we have to increase our presence here. So that's what I'm going to ask my sergeant to do. Conduct more maybe checkpoints that'll drive a message, like the police are here, and it'll actually address several things besides traffic, speeding, and other reckless traffic infractions.
Thank you for that. That's great. And then Stephen had a question, and then anyone watching online, comment now or forever hold your peace. And if anyone here, does anyone else here have a question after Stephen? Okay, Miss, you'll be next after Stephen. Go ahead.
I don't know if this comes under your jurisdiction, but especially over the weekends, the jet skiers, you know, the boats that go out, they're notorious for noise and being reckless on the water, like an accident ready to happen, and also loud music that comes from the boats that are out there. It's probably not under your jurisdiction, but is there any way that you might be able to speak to whoever would enforce that kind of thing?
Can you get us a jet ski? If we can get a jet ski. But no, we do. It does fall on our jurisdiction because we have a harbor team, a harbor unit. I'm sorry. So we have in the past. If you call 311, that call gets generated, and then that call gets rerouted to a harbor unit. Again, it's difficult because they're jet skis, but they do issue fines to this. We had a couple of years ago a few deaths, right? People got killed in the jet skis, they crashed, and they're not supposed to be out there after a certain time, right? So there is enforcement, just got to call, either 911, 311, depending what's going on. But we have, for sure, addressed it in the past. And if it comes across, our queue, we're going to answer the call.
Also for the noise from the loud noise?
Yes,
yes,
but again, it's difficult, you understand?
Yeah.
We also, what we've done in the past is we went to the different docks, the marinas, and we've spoken to the managers, the owners, say, listen, these boats are going out there. You allow them to go out there, speak to the owner. We also have gone there, waiting for them to come back and issue them summonses. So we do address it. Okay.
And just to echo that, I feel like the jet skis have been even more reckless this summer so far. Like I know they hit like a boat and whatnot, so just want to echo that.
Miss, you had a question?
Yeah, just to one noise problem, because we talked about before, the shooting range, that's a different issue. How many pictures, how many tickets have been issued from the camera? Do we know if there's City Island residents or non-City Island residents who get tickets?
I'm sure it's a little of both,
Yeah.
but I will try to foil and see what we can get and how many tickets have been issued by the camera. I remember seeing someone put up a heat map of all the different speed cameras, and ours was pretty dark, which indicated that there was activity. So again, we get people going down the Southway because people have to understand the legislation is the cameras have to be within a quarter mile of the school.
Right.
That's the only place you can put speed cameras. And for a while, it was only Monday through Friday, which is not terribly helpful to the City Island traffic pattern. It was helpful on Friday nights, but on Saturday and Sunday it was not helpful. So now it's 24/7 because they changed the laws in Albany. So now we get a lot going down there. Also, I live a block away from the camera, so I get a very sick sense of satisfaction when I hear that thing go off in the middle of the night because I see the racing once in a while. But we're trying to get one now on the north side because we do need one on the north side, and we're going to go into some of the other DOT things once we get the captain off. But I made a note to foil for that, and we'll be in touch.
Maybe we can put up some fake ones.
With the areas of the red lights, speak to the community board, or myself afterwards, I'll give them my information.
Yeah.
We could do focused enforcement, day or night, evenings,
Right.
around now or in the morning, however, there's the different locations that are not within the school areas. My suggestion to everybody here and everybody watching is don't assume that you're going to be able to get away from it now because you're going to see me. And you're going to see me either wave and say hello, or you're probably going to see me and be upset because you're getting the summons. I prefer you wave and say hello, or we got to correct the problem one way or another. And we'll do a lot of focus enforcement. We have gentlemen starting at as early as 7 a.m. So they could be out here at 7:15, 7:30. So if you're rushing late, on a Tuesday morning, I could still stop by that light just because you see people go forth, there might soon be an officer there that you can't see until it's too late.
Thank you for that. And everyone now keep in mind, because these guys are going to step up enforcement. So when your neighbors come and complain about City Island and the tickets they're getting, remember we asked for better enforcement, so we've got to be able to take it on the chin now, because that's what we need. Did anyone else have another question for the captain and the officer? They've been very generous with their time. Okay, Louise, do we have anything online?
Regarding the captain, no.
Okay, so let's give them a round of applause. And then, Tammy, you'll tell me what information you want to share, and if you want to give me your information, we'll be in touch and we'll go from there. Yeah, Mr. Murdoch, I'm going to steal your agenda quick here for a second, and we're going to. Yeah, and let's also thank the 45th precinct, because they work very hard.
I'll give
on
out my
things.
number.
Marie, go ahead.
I'll give out my cell number before.
Yeah, the number.
Yeah.
646 483
And I will validate the captain here. As someone who's texted him at some irregular hours, he is actually quite responsive. So give him some credit for that. And I will say, they changed, when Mayor Adams came in, they changed one of the procedures. I don't know if people know this. They changed the procedure so that when we got a new commanding officer, they actually, thank you very much, officer. They actually changed it so the precinct council actually interviews the potential commanding officers. And I know when the captain came through the panel, everyone was very happy and excited, because he knew so many of the problems here, because he had been the executive officer for what, like 5 years, 6 years?
4 years.
4 years. So he'd been here for a long time, so he knows the problems here. And again, how we solve problems is we communicate, all of us together. We make sure he's aware of some of the problems we have, and then, we'll see if there are improvements, how we can make them. So let's thank the captain, thank the officer. I know they've got to run. Okay. Thank you. And I'm glad they were able to come by. Thanks again, Captain. Thank you, officer. So we're going to skip. Also keep in mind, guys, two important things. One, National Night Out will be the first week of August. We'll be posting it on our social media. It's going to be in Westchester Square. It's a nice event. All the police are there. It's just a good way to get to know some of the officers who work in our precinct. So I encourage you to come. Also, on August 4th, they're going to have ice cream with the cop that had been unfortunately canceled due to the weather. So we're going to redo that on August 4th. Bring the kids. There's going to be free ice cream at Lickety Split for both children and adults. And there'll be some rides. Those will be just for the kids. So before you of us get on those rides, we'll probably break them. But there'll be, a nice event out there, and there'll be games, and it's a nice way to get to know the community officers, the neighborhood coordinating officers, our community affairs officers, who are wonderful. Hannah Rivera now, formerly Hannah Ron, Wilfredo Sanchez, and Chrissy Torres. So you'll get to meet all of them, and those are good people for us all to have their numbers for. God forbid something happens, you can contact them and effectuate change. So we have some community updates. I'm going to breeze through them, and then at the end we'll take any questions people have. We always want to start off with some good news. So Stephen, who's here, had been instrumental in helping us start our Adopt a Block, Adopt a Catch Basin program, and we put in for some grant money, and we actually just got $3,300 in grant money. So what we are going to do is we're going to be buying in mass brooms, trash pickers, all these things, and we have a map of the island where all the catch basins are, and we're going to try to match that. So if you live near a catch basin and you can commit 1 hour a month, we're not asking for anything dramatic, just clean up around the basin, clean up around the block as best you can. It would be greatly appreciated, and we will give you all the tools you need. So you'll get hedge clippers, trash pickers, some gloves, the sweeper, and then the bags and everything else that we need. Stephen has the list, so we'll get that out to you. But we just got this money actually yesterday, and then the board donated another $1,000 on top of that. So we're looking to get about 40 these bundles out to different people. So we'll talk offline, but we'll go pick it up, and we'll be sure to get it out to everybody. If people want to volunteer for this program, it's Adopt a Block or Adopt a Basin. Email us, cityislandrising, one word, @gmail.com. We will get you all the materials. Number 2, also on the good news front, the flood sensor should be installed over the weekend. So we will finally have a flood sensor on City Island, so when our flooding gets bad, that communicates with Sea Grant New York and FloodNet. So this is going to help us make our own cases beyond all the photos we all take to the climate crisis we have here on the island, why we need greater infrastructure dollars, whether that's through the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Green Bond Initiative that passed on the state level, which is $4 billion. So this is, again, helping us collect the evidence and be our own best advocates.
Where is that sensor?
So there are going to be a few sensors. One's going to be near Ditmar Street. Another's going to be near Turtle Cove, because those are the kind of our tidal flood points where things get bad. And there'll be other ones as it determined by need. If you think we're forgetting some places, I know Tier Street has some unique flooding issues due to the construction, so there may be one there. But this is just going to be the first transmitter, and then the other sensors hook up to the transmitter. So this is a very big first step. So just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. Also, as we said earlier, with the speed camera, we do. This is a group where we get something done, but we also utilize freedom of information law when necessary. And last year, I think everyone remembers, we put in for speed humps on Miniford, a stoplight, and a few years ago, which has been a collective community effort. It's not just us, but there was for a stoplight on Pilot Street. This has been going on. The foil even indicated from like the Jimmy Vaca days. Jimmy Vaca's written some letters. I wrote a letter. Former council member Joe and I wrote a letter. There's been a lot writing on this. So we got all the foils together, and our last request, we said, please measure these things on a weekend evening in the summer, when the traffic's at its worst. As you imagine, because we did freedom of information, I believe on one of them they went on a Wednesday, and on the other it was some day in October. So realizing they had not really honored that request, and there has been new leadership at the DOT. Elena Gown, who works for the mayor's office, she'd been at one of our recent meetings. She has facilitated so that they are going to actually come back out here this summer and re-examine it on a weekend evening. So hopefully we'll get a different result, because the traffic pattern, as we all know, because we all live here, on the weekend is dramatically different. We can't guarantee a different result, but we can guarantee a different examination, and that's what we've done here. We have our Stop and Swap event, which is going to be on September 16th at Hawkins Park. How this works is you bring your materials. There's a flyer on all our social media, and we'll be hanging some flyers up. You bring, gently used clothing. You can bring different types of electronics. It's basically meant to eliminate waste. If there are things you want to bring, you bring them. People can come, they can take them. It's all free of charge. And then the leftover stuff, as best we can, we're going to make sure they go to shelters or the migrants or things along that nature, of those in need. Anything I should be adding on that else? Or I'm good on that one. Yes. CERT, I think people have seen that. So we've been having some conversations with CERT. That's the New York City Community Emergency Response Teams. And every community board has a CERT, and we have a CERT. It's primarily based at a co-op city. And what they do is they assist in an emergency with, controlling traffic, transporting emergency supplies, checking on vulnerable populations, kind of taking reports for OEM, the Office of Emergency Management, other city agencies. OEM has recognized that we are uniquely vulnerable here, being in a Zone 1 evacuation area, being surrounded by water, all the things that happen with a natural disaster. So what we have done is we have this on our social media, but you're going to see a lot of these flyers. we've worked out with them, if we can get 30 people to commit to a standard date of the week, whether it's Saturday mornings, God I hope it's not, but it could be, whether it's a Thursday evening, whenever it is, if we can get 30 people all committed to the same time, they will come out here and do a CERT training, a CERT number of courses, specifically for City Island. So we're going to get special treatment so we can have our own CERT-like team out here. So how you can register if this interests you, you go to bit.ly/CIR, CERT, all one word, all capitalized, or you use this QR code on this flyer. So we're trying to get a group of about, obviously we're trying to reach more than 30 people because we have to get them all to agree to the same date. So what we're asking is if this is something that interests you, if this is something that you think has value, please let us know, and we will try to facilitate that. The New York City Ferry effort, we have a lot coming up online with this. Basically, there's going to be a letter to the editor that's published probably in the next week. We'll be sending that out. And then we're going to have a lot of group community activities beyond the petition in ways to register that you would support a ferry from City Island. So you're going to be getting stuff from us. We're going to be doing a logo contest for children and for adults. A City Island ferry would mean for them. And we're going to have guidelines and everything. But basically, the winner of that contest is going to get a gift certificate for 2 to their favorite restaurant on City Island. So we're encouraging a good competition here, and then from there we're going to, there's going to be a variety of different activities and ways to show your support, and we encourage you to do so. This is on a much, unfortunately, darker note. As people know, I work in the healthcare space, and we do have a comprehensive addiction treatment center at the hospital where I work. And they've shared with me that City Island is still, having a lot of problems with substance abuse. As many of us know, we've lost some people as of late. So since we've been kind of flagged as a community that this is a significant issue in, one of our fall meetings is going to be a panel discussion on addiction. We're going to be bringing in experts from the hospitals, not just the hospital where I work, the other hospitals as well, and try to bring everyone together for a full-on discussion on this and what are ways we can all support people who are grappling with addiction, because again, it is a disease and it is something that people are suffering from, and we want to do what we can to be helpful. Finally, the welcoming committee is going to be starting back up. So if there are new folks or you know of new folks on your block, email us, give us their names and their address, and we're going to go by with a nice folder for them with some nice little junkets so they can, feel welcome in the community. Does anyone have any questions on any of those things? Because I just breezed through a lot very quickly. Okay?
How realistic is this area?
How realistic did you say? Well, we've got to see. The EDC did a report. The report said obviously there would be questions about ridership, but a City Island ferry would be a lot more feasible than, for say, an Orchard Beach ferry. Because an Orchard Beach, City Island, at least the people would get up and walk to the ferry here, while an Orchard Beach ferry, you'd have to get in your car. Even from the closest points, it's a 10-minute drive. You have to get out of your car, go to a pier. There's a very low bathy level within Orchard Beach, so the pier would have to jetty out a long way. So whatever savings in terms of your commute you would generate by going to Orchard Beach, unfortunately, you would lose by the amount of time you added onto your own commute. So, obviously I would support from both, but, these are things we need to work out, and these are things that were flagged in the EDC report. But we continue to talk to them. I think as you've seen in probably the papers, there's been a dramatic increase in ridership on NYC Ferry, so much so that they're doing express routes to, obviously, Rockaway, but also in Brooklyn. And there is talk that there could be expansion in the coming months. That's just rumor right now, but we remain in touch with the Waterfront Alliance. We remain in touch with different advocates for different types of services. So feasible, possibly. We're still working on it.
Can I just follow up on that?
Sure.
What about tourists or people coming to City Island to eat here, to travel here, not us going to the city, but other people coming here. We originally talked about that. That's where Orchard Beach made a lot more sense for that crowd.
Yeah.
Then you'd have a ferry coming from Orchard Beach to City Island. Is there anything left of that idea?
I think right now what we're trying to do is get the whole area kind of considered for the NYC ferry. Obviously, you know, in terms of reducing our own traffic issues that we've talked about, if people can either drive over here after a fun-filled day at Orchard Beach or take the ferry, which would you do? You'd probably take the ferry. So in that way, on the weekends, it might be a revenue generator. But there are still studies that need to happen, but they are apparently possibly looking into expansion, and what we are trying to do is make sure our best foot is forward for consideration. And again, it might not be, you know, in terms of everything, it might not be that, City Island maybe only gets it on the hour, while Throgs Neck gets it a few times an hour. You know, we might not get the same level of frequency. I don't think anyone's saying that Throgs Neck is almost, 9 or 10 times the size of the island, but that we're given some level of consideration is what we're asking for. And on the weekends, as Patrick pointed out, be a revenue generator. So those things need to hopefully even themselves out. On old business, we still have a lot of supplies, whether they're NK95 masks, hand sanitizer, Narcan kits, which you need to be trained for, and then we also have the drug screening things. If you know someone who's grappling with addiction, we can just drop it off, put it in their mailbox, no questions asked. We're not trying to intrude here, but they can actually test to make sure there's no fentanyl in the products they're using. One of the things that came across in the healthcare conversations is the fentanyl is now in cocaine. So sometimes a little bit more of a party drug, but it is in there. So just encourage people, again, Narcan's not hard to get. We can facilitate someone getting Narcan, and we can also give someone some amount of these testing supplies. We're not here to pass judgment on anybody. If someone wants to use drugs, that's their business. We're not here to in any way to pass judgment, but we do want to make sure that they can have the tools they need so that they don't pass, because that's a tragedy for everyone. UPK, this is we're still working on this. Unfortunately, the negotiations with the Carroll Street property broke down over a few different things, to be perfectly honest, but very small things. So frustrating, yes, but UPK is Universal Pre-Kindergarten. So we are working on that. We're still trying to get that here. We are in touch with DOE because we do need to find another place and then try to keep that going for next year, and still try to get a site here, because every other community has this. We deserve to have it as well. And this is a community, because we're on the outskirts of the city, that if we don't raise our voices, as we've had it here tonight, sometimes we get forgotten. So we've got to do our part. New business, Senator Fernandez is having her ribbon cutting in Throgs Neck this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Her office address is 3853 East Tremont Avenue. It's right on the agenda here. She wanted me to invite all of you. She says that she would love to have a City Island contingent there. I will be there. I'm sure other people will be there.
What's the cross street there?
It's right over by the DeRosa Boyle Triangle.
By Patricia.
Remember where the old Mandy's used to be?
Oh, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, okay.
Remember where the old Alfie's used to be for the rest of you? Right there, there too. Yes, and Patricia's. We got to get the classy response to it. And then we had one response that came in over the email. Did you send it to me? Okay, hold on one second. So Stephanie from Councilmember Velasquez's office, the council member is holding a rain barrel giveaway Saturday, August 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the first 100 people to sign up. People can register at, is everyone ready? This is for Councilmember Velasquez if you want a rain barrel for your property. And again, the pickups are August 5th, but you have to register. So the number to register is 718-931-1721. Or, beyond calling her office, you can also email her and her staff, district1313@council.nyc.gov. So you can get the information out that way. Do we have any other questions online? We're good? Does anyone else have a question, comment, concern before we shut down the meeting for the evening? Thank you all for making this so very easy. Oh, and thank you to Peter and the staff for hosting us. Buy some coffee if you've been putting some coffee for the day. Thank you.